Hello to viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're going to talk about SpaceX future scope. So let's dive deep into it. So where they are currently, as in 2024's first quarter, SpaceX is world's only company in many regards. It's not just, okay, they are the world's only company to do this or that. It's like that list is long and everyone else is just trying at this point in time. Of course, I do expect other companies to finally figure out how to make a properly recoverable booster landing and all that. But I do expect that to take some time. So as of now, when I'm talking, well, other companies are trying to reach 100 launches. They have crossed, let that be very clear, they have crossed 200 successful booster landing on an autonomous drone ship, meaning the gap between them and the next biggest competitor is exponentially huge. It's not a little bit of a gap. You are talking about bonkers amount of gap, meaning, whoa. Like, it's very difficult for anyone to catch up unless they have very deep pockets and a lot of patience and a lot of good technology. So having all these three things is bonkersly hard. So they are on a whole different level. And in year 2023, they crossed one launch per week, meaning they were actually reaching higher than that. So more than 50 launches, almost 90 launches. And they're supposed to be, again, people are claiming, and we will only know once year 2024 is over, is that they might touch 3 launches per week this year, as in 2024. That can happen, but again, there is a weather as a component, so we may not know until this year is over. But that is on a whole different level. What kind of level we are talking about? Basically, at this point in time, you can put entire planet on one side and SpaceX on other side. SpaceX alone can go toe to toe and most likely will stand and win. So fundamentally, they are on a whole different level. And be mindful, there are only few places that can claim they have human rated system. SpaceX, the only one, is like, bro, I got this. And do not go at the, oh, it's expensive then compared to a system that was made by a bankrupt nation known as Soviet Union. Do not go there. Any brand new system that is like comparable to this, yeah, it's only Chinese, another communist nation. So be mindful, and be mindful, even that does not launches as frequently as this can and does launch. So we are not talking about a company that is on a whole different level. Basically, other companies like, we are planning for reuse. They are like, here's our fairing re-entering, enjoy. So we are talking about a company that is on a whole different level. It's not just a little bit better. It's like, bro, let's not even try. Okay, let's not compete. It's like it's humiliating for both of us. So currently they are in a good position. So if they are in such a good position, why they are working their ass off for Starship? Well, Starship is a different kind of gamble. When you compare their jump from Falcon 1 to Falcon 9, that was exponential. That was like Apple launching first iPhone. From iPhone to iPad launch was not that whoa. It's good, but it was not like whoa. Like iPhone made Apple into $1 trillion company. iPad was like, okay, here's $500 million more. $1 billion. So you get the point. Like it's a jump, but not exponential. So it's a very risky game, but with mild rewards. Rewards are there, but it's not exponential reward because 100-ton to orbit, it's huge. Now let this be very clear. That's his claim. I'm toning it down. He's saying 100 plus. I'm saying 100, and he's like, okay, we can make Mark 3. We're like, bro, reach orbit first, reach reusability first, then plan for 300 tons. But that's what I'm saying. Like, let's assume 100-ton to low Earth orbit while you are having both stage reused. It's bonkers. What does that mean? That's it, because there are only few missions for it. Like we are thinking about moon mission and Mars mission. Here's the reality for it. World does not actually have appetite for it. Like flat out, no. Like you're like, China, no. Look into let it rot movement in China. China is not in a position. It's almost like Soviet Union. How Soviet Union was, like, anybody who studies communism, it always goes to the same thing. So China is not in a position where we're gonna do multiple missions and we're gonna have like an actual thing. It's like, bro, your economy is not as healthy as you show it to be. And be mindful, people are not interested anymore. Like, we are no longer in that appetite where they're like, we're gonna go to the moon, we're gonna go to the Mars. It's like, nah, we get bored very easily. So that sort of scale mission, where it's like, okay, we're going to do hundreds of mission to actually have a colony established, that will be done on a trickle charge. So how many launches per year? Very few. Like, this could literally be like how Falcon Heavy is to Falcon 9. So same thing here. It does have like huge capability, but only for new mission. Now, what is the core benefit of this? Let's say SpaceX cracks it. What is the core benefit they're gonna get on day one? The core benefit is it is a must-have for Starlink. Now, let this be very clear. You must have heard that Starlink became a green this year or 2023. You have to understand this. Whenever a company talks like that, that simply means that year their basically expenditure was balanced out by the earnings. That simply means in that year they've actually made money. Does not mean they have already paid off all their debts. It takes very long time to do so, unless you have like very exponential stock jump, which it did happen with Tesla. But Starlink is a bit slower compared to that. So be mindful, and again, that's why they are building it. They know for a fact that Starlink is not a viable mission, like ecosystem yet, because again, launching few satellites per launch is not good enough. They need to launch few orbital loops. Basically, that's what their aim is. We launch one rocket, and that rocket fulfills at least 2 or 3 orbital loops. Then only they can make it cost effective. Where replacing the satellites, and because again, they are keeping the satellite low Earth orbit. That's awesome. But here's the all satellites are actively powered. They have their own propulsion. They're gonna run out of fuel and they're gonna crash and burn. That's good for orbital safety, good for junkyard mitigation, but does come with a penalty that you have to have a rocket system that can replenish it. And the next generation of satellite, which they haven't managed to launch, is huge, heavier, bigger, bulkier, far more capable also, but they cannot launch it. So they need to have Starlink for long-term success. Let me be very clear, not just like a burst of success, like long-term sustained economical profit, printing money. They need Starship to work. That's the biggest guy. That's why Starships, the first thing they are testing, even though on paper they are like, yeah, moon mission is thing. Why the heck you think the payload door is designed for this mission? Starlink. That's the whole point. It has to work. Otherwise, Starlink will fall apart. Not in short duration, in long duration. And if they crack it, let's say they figured it out, this actually works, this is a thing, they will have monopoly on big load. Right now, SpaceX has monopoly on many things, because as you may be like, okay, what about small satellite launch market? They have monopoly on that. Like, why? Well, here's the, you can launch on them almost weekly. Okay, all other manufacturers, all other small satellite manufacturers, you would be lucky if they can do 4 or 8 launches a year. They're like, bro, every week. On top of that, they can have what we call orbital vehicles, meaning you put your small satellite on a vehicle that you put next to basically payload, and that way you go to orbit very cheaply. Then the orbital vehicle detaches from basically final stage, and then it puts you exactly where you need to go. So no longer that, okay, the small satellite launch vehicle can directly put you where you need to go. Now that can be done with large, basically it's a bus carrying another bus. So that benefit that used to be there in 2017 no longer applies. So SpaceX already has bonkers amount of basically monopolistic market grip, like way too much. And having this sort of ability, they will be the sole provider. Oh, you want a space station? We are the only one that can give you big enough volume that in few launches you will have more volume, useful hard surface volume compared to ISS. Like the only rocket that can even come close to us is actually, ironically, Saturn's 5's final mission, not even final if I'm not mistaken, basically where they remade the third stage into a Skylab. That was huge. So I think that's the only competition, because that was 150 ton. I'm targeting 100 ton here. So, but again, rocket would have been far more expensive there. This rocket would be much cheaper. So they would have monopoly. Like anybody, Tom, Dick and Harry is like, I want to put 50 tons. Other may talk to you. You're like, I want to put 80 tons. Yeah, everybody's like, bro, I'm sorry, we simply can't. They're like 100 tons. And once you actually bring that capability into market, people design around it. Once you show it, there will be only few risk taker in the early stage, because again, that's a big bulk of money that you're risking. Once that is sorted, once people have enough faith in it, then they're like, you know what? I can design with something, because yes, that was the weak link. We could not have, like, space shuttle was the weak link for ISS, because again, that was the volume limit, tonnage limit. What if this was the building block for the next system? Now you're like, okay, what if we have large diameter? Like, what if we have expanding module? Here's the deal. Imagine you have the expanding module on Vulcan rocket or expanding module on Blue Origin. Having expanding module on this still gives you exponentially larger surface area. So they will have monopoly. That would be huge, awesome. What do they have to sort in order for this puppy to fly? They have to sort payload door. Again, satellite launching is one thing. Having a payload door that is convenient while you have heat shield around, yeah, that's gonna be difficult, but can be done. And they have to figure out third stage so they can offer deep space heavy payload missions. Meaning, what if you can send your probe to Pluto in few years rather than a decade, and it still has enough oomph that it can do planet capture. So that would be awesome, but that would require third stage. So this is the Starship's main hope. So what are the limiting factor that is like, that's going to hamper the progress? Well, Boca Chica site needs more power. If I'm not mistaken, they are still limited to 33 kV line. They may need 133 kV line. Basically, they need a lot of megawatts there. Like, they are consuming way too much power. Early days, they were like, they had a very small 11 kV line. Then they put solar farm. And then they're like, yeah, that's not enough. And I'm genuinely shocked that not every square inch is covered in solar panel. It would work, but I'm shocked that it's not done yet. Again, at least it will reduce your cost. So they need a lot of power. And why do they need a lot of power? Because they still have not built on-site air distillation. Because here's the amount of nitrogen and liquid oxygen they are consuming is bonkersly high. And anybody who is selling you is they are doing the same thing. And if you are at this scale of a consumer where you are consuming tons of it, and that's almost weekly, yeah, at that point it makes more sense economically to just build your own air distillation system, because any amount of money that you are paying them, you are paying for that plant, you are paying for that cost inflation and all that, and you are paying for the profit, and then you are paying for transportation, which is petroleum trucks, lot of trucks, and the truck owners and all that jazz. So you are paying exponentially more. So if you have built your own plant, X amount of cost plus running cost of electricity plus maintenance and all that, it would be much cheaper compared to buy. Again, because the scale is so high. If you're only consuming few tons annually, it does not matter. But if you're consuming hundreds of tons, like tons and tons and tons, and like it has to be measured in kilotons, yeah, at that point in time it makes more sense. Why haven't not they done it? Either it's not a priority enough, or most likely it's the power limitation. They do not have the power needed for it. So that will be a very serious cadence limitation. They cannot just keep going once a week if they do not have on-site production, like a huge production of that. Another thing they can do, if you have that sort of air distillation, it creates a lot of waste heat. Thankfully, they are next to a sea. What does that mean? That simply means they can do on-site thermal distillation. And if you pay attention to any aerial visits of that location, there are a lot of air conditioning there. Again, welding metal causes a lot of heat. So they have a lot of waste heat. If they can channel that waste heat effectively, especially from air distillation and from all the industrial process, they can get desalination like almost for free. Almost 90% of energy requirement from desalination would be just there, and they will have like auxiliary energy requirement. So that could provide them on-site water requirement. Again, that is also huge. And the more people you have, the more industrial processes you have, the more water requirement you will have. So that could also be a good way to expanding the capability, not be limited. Okay, my factory can't keep up. It's like, I got this. Factory is like, bro, I got this. As much oxygen as you need, we got this. As much liquid nitrogen you need, I got this. As much distilled water you need, I got this. So of course they can't make methane on site, but other than that, everything else like they can sort. And streamlining FAA process. Thankfully, rich people are working on it, so it will be done. So Jeff Bezos is working on it, Blue Origin, and you have Elon Musk and what is Richard Branson. All of them are basically talking with FAA and Congress, and like there's a very serious thing. They're basically, all these businessmen are saying like, hey, you want us to bitch slap China, you cannot cut our wings. You want us to bitch slap China, we will do it for you, but you have to let our wings loose. If you do not do that, do not complain when China bitch slaps you. So that's how they are doing. Like, you want China to be bitch slapping you, or you want us to bitch slap China. Take your pick. That's a very clever politics things. So this is the limiting factor right now. So this is their first scope, like get this thing sorted. Only then they can have wings expanding. Another thing, what can they do with Falcon 9 now? It's unlikely or like ill-advised, so to say, to just rely on one super huge rocket. It's like, yeah, it's good and all that, but it's like US only building super heavy carriers, or like, that would be aircraft carriers. Just relying on super carriers is like dumb. You want like other things, nimble things also. So Falcon 9 can be rebuilt, a new successor of it. So you have to understand, Falcon 9 is awesome. As of now, it is an awesome rocket. There is no discussion about it. However, it's showing its age. Now you also have to understand, when you see this rocket, it was made by a poor company. Now, like, does that matter to rocket engineering? Absolutely. In this case, compare this rocket to any other rocket, you will notice this rocket is way too thin, way too tall. This puppy is way too tall for the payload it has. Like, why? Because Elon Musk was poor when he was building this. Like, what does that to do with rocket design? Yeah, he could not build a giant area that is next to a launch pad. So he had to design places, things in different places. So he had to make sure everything can be transported on roads without requiring special permits, without requiring like a dedicated road, or like it's a very hassle to transport, because every road has a clearance. You have to fit inside the clearance. So that's why it's so thin and so long. So they can make sure they can shift it through tunnels, not even tunnel, like bridge, flyovers, passes, and all that jazz. So That is the biggest limit. That's why I compare the same rocket, same sort of, like, actually even less oomph than this puppy to basically neutron rocket. Neutron rocket is fat. Why? Again, economically, it makes sense. If you can afford a fat rocket, you make a fat rocket. So they are making bigger rocket always gives you better efficiency in terms of mass. Why? Well, here's the deal. Take a cylinder, whatever dimension, x, take the dimension, x and y dimension, as in like height and in terms of diameter. If you increase the diameter just a little bit, it gives you far more volume compared if you increase the height. So it always more beneficial, economics wise, geometry wise, to build larger diameter. Of course, there is a upper limit and there is a point where it becomes too cumbersome. You do not want it to be as fat as a basically full Starship, but something bigger than this, 1 meter bigger or 2 meters, because now we are talking. The moment you reach 2 or 3 meter tall, now you're talking. Now you're like, bro, we good. Still not as cumbersome as Starship, but still not to be poor as Elon Musk when he only had $100 billion. What a poor fellow. So that will give you more efficiency. Then engine. Thankfully, they have already sorted that part. Merlin, yeet the Merlin. Put Raptor. Again, that amplifies the production line. You no longer have to maintain a Merlin supply chain. Cost reduction and efficiency improvement. Again, another improvement would be a chemical system would be bypassed. T-tab, yeet T-tab. You will have only electrical system and you will have more power. So that will be good. And paint job will survive longer because again, it will not have that sooty issue. That's good. So you'll have more power, more better paint job, no T-tab requirement, more thrust, all of that sorted. Hydraulics would be yeeted for this sort of puppies, which we call electronic actuations. Now, be mindful, this can be done to Falcon 9, and I'm reasonably sure they may have already updated it. But again, as we have improved, if you're not building a rocket that is made in 1950, which majority of them are, as in like the design, the blueprint, that's how old they are, most of them. It's like they're still stuck with hydraulics. Most of the new companies have realized that hydraulics is no longer as viable as they used to be. And you only need a rocket engine to gimbal for a few minutes. And batteries are like, we got this. Few minutes is like, bro, I got this. Heck, Rocket Labs is like, bro, I run turbo pump on battery. So battery got it. And it's far more efficient. You only have to do electrical wiring. Of course, it's a bit heavier gauge wiring, but you have to do electrical anyway. You have to do sensor wiring anyway. You have to do so much wiring anyway. Might as well do this. And people who have done this, it's like, it's much quicker, much more efficient, less hassle, lower cost. So everybody's going YOLO on it. So that's that would be another improvement. Disposable second stage, because yes, it does not make unless there is some new design for second stage, which I have only seen worked with one company that is trying with a new design. You have to make a disposable second stage, otherwise you have to do that virtual combo nozzle thing that Stock Space is trying to do. Other than that, I have not seen any design that will allow a small rocket to have second stage reusable. And third stage, this is another weak link. Because of the thin diameter, they did not truly anticipate it to actually becoming this big. So if you are starting from day one, you're like, okay, this is a 2-stage rocket, but we're gonna plan for third stage. Why? Yes, assume this rocket does, let's say, 35 ton to low Earth orbit. If you have 5 tons of just third stage, that can do a lot because you are already at orbital velocity and you have discarded majority of the rocket. That 5 tons can do things. Lot of things. How do you think we went to moon? We did not build a rocket that goes to moon. We built a 150 ton to low Earth orbit rocket. Then we put a third stage. Like somehow entire humanity has forgotten that third stage exists. Like thankfully, Rocket Lab did figure it out. They put kick stages. That's how they were like doing some competitive things very early on. So third stage will allow geostationary. That is another weak link, and deep space mission. So that point they're like, I got this. Deep space, we got this. So that can be done, and of course they won't have any green flashes, but I think the engineers would be far more orgasmic with lower parts count, simpler production line, efficiency, and more redundancy. Again, electrical systems is much easier to be redundant. So this is Falcon 9 success that can be built. With almost everything they have, only thing they have to change is the diameter. They have to make this boy fight. Now, what about economics? That's the final. Physics, engineering, economics. Now, economics, unfortunately for everybody is dealing with space, money does not grow in space. You would think that. It does not grow in space. The one of the most honest lines said by Elon Musk ever is that, how do you become a millionaire in space? You start with billionaire. So that's actually true. It's like space does not print money as much as you would think. And So SpaceX has taken some steps. One is keeping it off the public market. Well, that gives you stability. That's good, but does come with some penalties. That it gives limits the pool of money you have. Now, of course, it does give you the benefit. People could assume that you have 1 trillion. People could assume you have hundreds of trillion, but reality is generally it's always less than what you have in the public market, and that's why companies take the risk of public market. If it had smaller pool, nobody would do it. It's like, oh, I'm taking more risk because I have less money. Yeah, nobody would do that. So you'd get benefit of safety, but you get penalty of lower economic pool. That's what it is. So how do you make money? Well, space tourism is very lucrative, and SpaceX has the luxury that NASA and their past have already worked on it, meaning they got a orbital class space tourist vehicle ready, take it and go. Take it and go, including spacesuit also. So they have it, take it and go. Every other company is like, we have a rocket plane that acts like a space plane. We have a single stage rocket that goes like a ballistic missile. We have actual space system where you will be weightless for hours. Again, I do not think you would want the mission to be very long, because again, the moment people have to poop in space, they'll lose interest. So you, again, majority of people will lose interest. If you are filthy rich, you have a certain kind of tenacity, then you will tolerate it, but it's not pleasant. You do not want that. So as long as you can shrink from launch pad to coming back, so you can poop on Earth's gravity, that would be desirable. So let's say 5 to 6 hours, and again, more than enough time where you can actually float in. It won't be like, I'm floating for 4 minutes and then like, no, I've seen the whole orbit. You have to complete orbits. Once you have done that, it's good. So very lucrative. So they have the money, they have the tools, they have everything. That puppy can be big money printing device. Another aspect is Starlink has great potential. It's not realized yet. It has potential. We have to wait for the Starship to be complete, the actual final iteration of Starlink satellites to be done, employing multiple orbital shells in one go. Then we're gonna be like, okay, does it work or not? So we have to be patient with that. However, there is a very serious risk, Elon Musk's mouth, and you may be like, does that matter? Actually, yes. Even in gray market is not controlled by magic, it's controlled by people. And if Elon Musk keeps making claim he does not deliver, over time people will start to pull money back, and it has happened. To give you, and you may like, he's the CEO, he can do whatever. Yeah, but like, you are playing with other people's money and other people's job. That is why there are laws and regulation to restrain very successful CEOs. The reason for that is, you may think it's like, oh, it's like controlling a government's over interference. We have learned the hard way that just because you are very successful in the early stages of life does not guarantee that same wisdom in the later stages. You could literally be the worst. You could be like, in your 20s to 30s, you are like, man, you are making companies, you are printing money, you are making jobs, and after that you can just like, you can lost your touch. And yes, it has happened. People have learned the hard way. That's why there are restraints. That's why there are board of directors. That's why, like, again, many times they destroy it, but we have learned the hard way that we must have checks and balances. Give a recent example. Elon Musk, Tesla. Elon Musk literally demanded $50 billion payout. It's like, dude, it's your company. Why you are asking your own company? And if you sell that much stock of it, it will have a tanking effect. And that went to court, and he lost. That just happened. So there is and again, compare this behavior to Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos sells Amazon stocks to fund this. So he has a different kind of approach. Like, hey, I believe in Amazon, I believe in Blue Origin, I know I can keep growing Amazon as much as it needs to. I'm just like siphoning off a little bit so I can plant a new tree. That makes sense. Here is like, you're siphoning off 50 billion for what? You don't say robotics company, because Atlas will bitch slap you badly. So that's the whole point. So what does this mean? This simply means somebody has to figure out a way to mute him. Now in Tesla, they are going through court to mute him. And in SpaceX, people are saying that even though he has on the paper power, but other people have realized that, bro, like, you were awesome, but now you are becoming a hassle. It's like we have a saying that if you have a kite that is super awesome, as long as the rope is taut, it's awesome. The moment rope is cut, so he's in that point where rope is cut. People haven't realized that your mouth has no brakes, man. So that's the economic side of it. So as long as somebody can mute Elon Musk, things are gonna go be very smooth. They have a lot of scope, and they can print money with at least 2 viable businesses. So they're gonna be here for a while, and they're gonna have a good market grip. The only one that can truly bitch slap them is Jeff Bezos, because that dude freaks me out. That dude is patient. And one thing is, the scariest thing in this planet is patience. If you have patience, damn. So this was my presentation on basically SpaceX future scope. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please hit the like button, share it amongst friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me excess disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.